Let's go ahead right now and bring in Roy Paul. He is the executive director of Sense-Ability, spelled C-E-N-T-S Ability, which is a nonprofit aimed at educating teens about financial literacy and management. Roy, welcome. It's good to talk to you again. So how much is this plan going to cost the government? We heard President Biden talk about concerns about where this money was going to come from. So as far as we know, how is the government going to pay for this?
Yeah, so it's going to cost about $200 to $300 billion, depending on who you talk to. And I think what the president is really trying to underscore, more so than the cost of the program, is this notion that he is investing in low-income people who've been struggling with debt. Right? There's all this talk about the final total package plan and then inflation impact. And I think what he was trying to hone in on this message is that whatever the impact ends up being, whatever it ends up costing, he's willing to take the hit to invest in people who really need economic relief right now.
So, Roy, we heard a couple of questions being thrown at the president about the fairness for people who maybe had to scrape together their funds to pay off those loans. We didn't hear him address that. How much of a financial impact will this plan actually have on people with student loan debts? And is there a feeling, are you hearing from people about relative fairness in terms of this new announcement?
Yeah, there's no way to really fix the notion that it's unfair, because for many people it is. And if you are one of those people listening to the president talk right now about this plan and you've already paid off your loans, you're sitting there going, wait, what happened to my $10,000 or $20,000? A lot of people really do make life-altering decisions based on their student debt. They take out a cheaper mortgage for a home. They may not be able to drive the car that they want to. Their vacations might look a little bit different. So they've sacrificed, and they're not going to get a rebate. And so the president doesn't want to talk about it too much because it is unfair for those who are in that situation.
Well, Roy, we're hearing criticism from some Republicans saying this plan will only make inflation worse. I know Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell has criticized this plan, calling it a, quote, wildly unfair redistribution of wealth. What's your take on that criticism?
Yeah, at the heart of whatever this is going to cost, it's going to be really placed on the taxpayers, right? That's who eventually is going to end up paying for it. And that is really what's driving some of the negative responses that you see, because included in a lot of those people who are going to be paying for it are people who never went to college themselves, right? And so this redistribution argument is valid in the sense that you're talking about people in this country who are really trying to get up out of this financial crisis by themselves. And now this is one more thing to add on top of all of it. And so I think the president, this is really going to be a messaging strategy for the president. How effective is he and his administration going to be in really selling the idea of helping people come out of this financial crisis as opposed to anything else? That's really what's going to be the driving factor here. It's really how they message it to the American people.
Roy, you teach teens about financial literacy, management. A lot of times, one of the problems is that is taught, it's handed down from parents who are either aware or not aware. Presumably, some of the teens that you work with don't come from a background where they've had a lot of instruction on this. How will this forgiveness affect them?
Yeah, for me, I look at two things. One, many people that we teach and across the country don't even know what their monthly student payment loan is going to be when they graduate in 4 years. They take out the debt and they figure it out when they graduate. And what we want to do is change habits, right? If you're going to go to school, there's nothing wrong with going to college and taking out loans to do it. But if you're going to take out $50,000, $60,000 in debt, maybe there's a least expensive alternative. Can you go to a community college to start, or maybe a state school? And then on the back end, when we talk about all this forgiveness that people are going to get, I really want people to really understand that when you have that $10,000 or $20,000 forgiveness, hopefully that then is redistributed in your own personal bank account. How are you then going to use that extra money you didn't have to spend to make sure that everything else adds up evenly in your account? And I hope people really do take advantage of that.
All right. Roy Paul, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.